to express my gratitude to both my supervisors, Case, as well as Yannicka, in helping me to shape the proposal that I'm going to present today. And the title of it is The Globalization of Competency-Based Medical Education, Rationales and Implications of Adoption. Let me just start by giving you my own background. So basically, I'm working in an international medical school in Management and Science University in Malaysia. And part of my job is actually be the curriculum committee coordinator. And as a result of that, that's kind of like sparks my interest since we are doing curriculum review right at this moment. So when I look at it, I noticed that globalization has shifted the direction for the way that we actually deliver our medical curriculum, partly because it is pushing towards global standardization. But on top of that, there's also a lot of global changes, such as the ease of travel, the change of disease, the migration, and as a result of many things, partly job opportunities, partly because of geopolitical conflicts. And the field of medical education is also affected by that, because we are much more connected compared to before, and because of the exposure, it also gives the sense of accountability, legitimacy, and also perhaps competition among medical schools to get the same market of students population. So medical institutions and schools around the world are finding ways to cope with these demands. And one of it is by adopting either full curriculum from, like importing curriculum from a well-renowned institution, down to taking inspiration from different educational innovations, such as outcome-based education that is currently advocated as the gold standard for accreditation. And one of that is actually competency-based medical education. So what is the advantage of competency-based medical education? Why do people want to adopt competency-based medical education? So the main concept behind it is actually very outcome-focused. And the inception also, if you look at the history, it's actually very much aligned with the healthcare needs of the society, wanting to produce better doctors. So basically, that's the main thing about outcome-based medical education, that why people like it in general. And as a result of that, because it's outcome-focused, it emphasizes on transparency, for example, and also affordability with in relation to, because it promotes reduction of time-based training. So now your graduates can potentially shorten their training time, because it's based on competency rather than because of time-based. However, it has also received criticism, partly because if you look back at the history again, the inception of it started, perhaps outcome-based education specifically, started around about the time of in the 1960s. And during that time, educational psychology was largely surrounding behaviorism. And as a result of that, it has this emphasis of it has to be observable, and because of that, the assessment is mainly, how should I say, focused on that. And one of the criticism is studies have shown that it is very much design-based, limited, which means that its effectiveness has to be very much tailored to the way that they design the curriculum itself. And even though we say that it can reduce the time taken by the students to be able to be competent, at the same time it also difficult to implement, because we do have limited by credit hours kind of like system. And there's also criticism regarding its suitability within complex learning, We know that medical education is inherently heuristic but also adaptive at the same time. So people find it difficult to sort of like align all these at the same time. And finally, if you review the literatures, there are very minimum research that do empirical or give you empirical evidence with regards to the implementation. So the question is, why are these institutions around the world still adopt CBME, despite the fact that it has its fair share of criticism, as well as lack of empirical evidence with regards to its use. And for this project, I'm basing my, I have conceptual framework of institutional isomorphism. So in short, it's about, it's actually coming from the study of sociology, where institutions have this unseen pressure of taking up certain measures or adoption of innovation, for example, just to be similar to one another, but not necessarily that it will be effective or efficient at that time. And I will also use critical consciousness theory to base the analysis as well as the data collection throughout this project. So for that, the aim of my project is basically to explore the rationale and implications of global CBME adoption and its implementation. I want to find out what basically are the motives of still adopting, you know, the CBME, and I will also want to see how they actually impact the implementations of it. And these are my research questions. So you can perhaps read because the time is running out. I'm happy to take more questions after this. Thank you very much.